What's up everybody, Ghost Girl 007 here, and Happy New Year! Today's video is going to be a new kind of video. Today we're going to start with doing paranormal read with me's. So today we're going to read a magazine, paranormal magazine. It is Haunted History, real life ghost stories and supernatural events. It's a history book. So today it has stories on them like the Salem Witch Trials, Amityville, Ghosts of Gettysburg, The Secrets of Yellowstone. It's going to show you some pictures. She's going to show you the picture of this, the front of it. This is what that looks like, and I'm going to show you the back of it. This is a little different. I picked this up in a local grocery store. Because of private reasons, I'm not going to say which grocery store, but yeah. Pretty cool book. So, when you open it up, the first page looks like this. It's pretty cool. Thought I would read it on my channel. The first page says, countless stories of unsettled spirits have arisen in every culture throughout history, and they remain very much alive today. So that's what it says on the corner here. Right there. It's pretty cool. So, this next page. The spooky form in this vintage photo looks as though it might have a face if you look directly above the child's wickered chair. So I guess if you look closely, there's like a face right here. And this is the picture. Pretty cool. So I'm going to read to you the text. So it says, well, actually, I'll just skip that, and we'll go to... Okay, so I'm going to read you this one. America the Haunted. History is steeped in bloody tales, and the souls from these stories may not always rest easily. Traumatic events such as war, slavery, murder, imprisonment, and violent accidental deaths have played out in every town and city across the nation. And traumas like these are at the root of practically every ghost story ever passed around a campfire, told with reverence in a shaking voice or recorded in a historical document. Perhaps an untimely, unjust, or uncommonly brutal death is almost always found at the heart of a haunted location, because it's easy to understand how the spirits of people who meet a tragic end would have a hard time moving on to the other side. They may be so shocked by their own death that they don't know it's time to leave this world, or perhaps they're so angry about what happened to them that they feel bound to the realm of the living so they can try to share their stories or seek their revenge. So this will be the first page. It's pretty cool. It's also in the corner. It says paranormal sightings range from shadows that aren't quite right to full body apparitions. So it's still the same page. So I just read this. Let's go to the next page. While the science behind alleged hauntings and paranormal events is a matter of wide-ranging debate by large paranormal investigators believe in the supernatural. and indeed most people who've experienced ghostly phenomenon believe that when the intensity of an event is fierce enough, it can leave an impression even after it's long over. Sometimes these impressions only cause vague prickles, a slight shiver, or your hair standing on end. Ghost hunters have found that these faint sensations are often concurrent with fluctuations in the electromagnetic field, EMF, at the location, which is they documented time and time again. Using EMF meters, a common tool in a paranormal investigator's kit, orbs of light that only show up in photographs and sudden cold spots in a room are also considered some of the subtler indications of a soul trapped in a location. Other times, a paranormal phenomenon is anything but subtle, causing chilly sensations, experiences of sight, sound, touch, and even smell. Disembodied footsteps that tramp across empty rooms are commonly reported at haunted locations, as are voices heard in empty rooms, sometimes from another part of a building and sometimes right next to a person's ear. Often investigators will record audio at a location, and much like the light orbs that only appear in a picture, when the recordings are played later, voices can be heard in the background, hiss even though they weren't practically audible at the time they were captured. Such occurrences are known as electronic voice phenomenon, EVP. And what is typically heard is a single word or short phrase, "help me," "get out," and "mommy," are among the most common. More physical experiences common to hauntings include objects that move of their own accord, sometimes flipped upside down or even broken. The most arresting encounters, however, are the apparitions of ghostly figures. Sometimes just a shadow is seen creeping along in a way that defies the light source. But other times a ghost can look as if they are alive, material person standing next to you, until they slowly or abruptly disappear. These bodily apparitions may wander a place familiar to them, repeating a trauma they suffered over and over, such as a running to a room where they were killed, or weeping in a hallway over a lost love. Others are thought to have more interactions with the living by talking to them and trying to lure them into rooms or push them out. All of these phenomena and more have been reported and often recorded at the locations on these pages, which should come as no surprise because historical sites like battlefields, slave plantations, and abandoned asylums were witness to some of the greatest horrors imaginable. Have these traumas really trapped the spirits of the victims and patrons, at least partially in the mortal realm? It is possible that an event can be so blood-curdling that even after hundreds of years, someone might not be able to move on. Our fascination with these dark corners of our history, morbid as it may be, shows a disinclination among the living to leave these wounds alone. So perhaps it is possible that the wounded themselves have even harder time dealing with the pain. You can decide yourself on this trip across the country to some of the nation's most infamous haunted hotspots where our often cruel history is thought to creep into the modern world through the spectral plane. That's quite interesting. That was on this. So this page had to say. So now I'll go to the next page. And the next page has all these little cool little things. It has you to read different little things. So I'm going to read some of those. Cool. So this says Haunted Tales. Some of the scariest supernatural stories from every state in the nation. And then it has some things over here. Augusta. Yeah, I don't know. So here we got Port Gamble. And Port Gamble, but I'm not sure exactly what state that is. WA. Maybe that's Wisconsin. The Walker Ames house is one of the most haunted in the U.S., with reports of mischievous children and distinguished staff who harassed the house from the other side. Then you got Dayton, Oregon. The Lafayette Pioneer Cemetery is said to be haunted by a woman hung for witchcraft who cursed the town before her execution. So let me read. That's just a few of the ones that are on this page that it reads about. That's pretty cool. Let's just do this one. Okay, so unsettling colonial Williamsburg. It is hard to find a place where American history is better preserved than in Williamsburg, Virginia. Today it's a town under glass where visitors can glimpse what life was like during the founding of the nation, the turmoil of revolution, and the violence of the Civil War. As a historic site, its buildings and artifacts remain well preserved, but many visitors and residents testify that certain less tangible things remain there as well. A true landmark in Williamsburg, Virginia, the Capitol building has seen some of the country's most brutal growing pains, from the struggles of colonial life to the battles of the Revolution and the Civil War. Stop page. A prosperous start. In 1699, Williamsburg was made the capital of the Virginia colony. The capital up to that point had been Jamestown. But after nearly a century of hardship, including starvation, bloody confrontations with the Powhatan tribes native to the area, a rebellion, and fires destroying Jamestown, more than once the colony's leaders thought it would be a good idea to move on. They chose the nearby Williamsburg, originally founded as Middle Plantation, which was fortified by a 6-mile-long stockade. It was also home to the College of William and Mary, America's second oldest institution of higher learning. The new capital prospered, and Virginia's first paper mill, printing press, newspaper, and theater all sprung up in Williamsburg, as well as the country's first hospital for the mentally ill. The town grew into a cultural, social, and political center of the colonies. And so when rebellion against British rule began to stir, Williamsburg was at the center of it. When the Civil War broke out less than a century later, the battles of Williamsburg took place in a driving rain that soaked the blood of 4,000 Union and Confederate soldiers into the soil. With such a rich concentration of unrest, passion, and trauma, it is no wonder that countless paranormal encounters have been reported throughout the entire town. The Wythe House. Revered Dr. Ward Goodwin, the man who championed the privatization of Williamsburg, said he wouldn't give a hoot for anybody who doesn't believe in ghosts. Being that his office was in the George Wythe House, he likely had first-hand experience with the immaterial residents of what is said to be one of the most haunted buildings in Williamsburg. Indeed. In 1935, he wrote, "One is not alone here. The ghosts of the past are my gladsome companions in the near midnight silence." The house was built in the mid-18th century to be the home to the notable patriot and lawyer George Wythe and his wife Elizabeth Taillefer. I think I'm saying that right. During both peace and wartime, a great many people stayed at the house, including General George Washington and General Rochambeau. I don't know if I'm saying that right either. Who used it as a headquarters during the Revolutionary War. Many who visited the house today believed at least one of its inhabitants may not have ever left. George Wythe, a respected, defined man who was a signatory on the Declaration of Independence, met a lurid end after writing a will that was quite generous to his disreputable grandnephew, George Wythe Sweeney. The younger George is said to have poisoned his great uncle to get his hands on the inheritance as fast as he could. It took 2 agonizing weeks for the poison to finally kill George Wythe, in which time the nefarious plot was uncovered and the grandnephew was written out of the will. Though Wythe did not die in the house, some visitors have claimed to have felt his touch, especially on the anniversary of his death, June 8th. Despite Wythe coming to a bitter end, his ghost is not the spirit who has made the Wythe House an infamously haunted spot. That honor goes to Lady Anne Skipwith. So be this. I guess this is a little bit of how the house is supposed to look like. This is what it looks like through that. So I'm just gonna get a little closer look up to that. And I think that's what he was supposed to said to be look like. So if you like stories like this, I'll be reading more from this magazine. So if you like stories like this, just like and subscribe and leave a comment below. And until next time, stay spooky, guys.